so glad that oh, PK said wait. Oh, okay, thank you. All right, good morning. I'm glad that you're back for our third session of Holy Listening. So after today, we just have one more, and then you'll go back to Sunday school. If any of you don't have a Sunday school, we are in the process of making some new literature and some slides that are going to pop up hopefully next week, just telling about the different classes. So if you don't have a Sunday school and you'd like to have one, we would love to help you plug in. So after this, don't just go away forever. You might find a place that you want to plug in. So let me know, and you can call me and I'll help you find a place to plug in as well, whatever. So this is our third week about Holy Listening, and I just want to start with a question that I got this week. I've been getting a lot of questions. Next week, we're going to have a question, and answer time. I know I haven't had a lot of time. Maybe we'll have time today for questions. But anyway, I ran into somebody on my morning walk, and she said, I like this Holy Listening. I'm trying to do it. But what do you do when somebody won't stop talking? And you have to go somewhere. We had another person who had a repair person at her house, and I loved it. She said, I was practicing Holy Listening, but then I said, I have to go. So one of the things with Holy Listening is that it is a way of being, right, in the world. It's just a way. We're going to be better listeners because we know the power of holding sacred space. So whether you actually move through a U-shape of Holy Listening or you're just listening, I hope that if nothing else happens from our time together, that you're just more aware of how hungry everyone is to be heard. So step one is just to be a better listener is important in this day and age, especially when everything talks at us. Our phones are beeping. People are talking louder and louder to be heard over all this stuff. All the things are happening. Pretty soon we're going to have AI companions. I got a text this week from my AI friend. I didn't know that they had my number. And in the text it said, I am your AI companion. How can I help you? I have a new friend. We're going to have a lot of people say they're going to listen to us. So we want to be human beings that listen to other human beings. And I'll talk a little bit more about that next week and why I think the church needs to step in right now and get serious about Holy Listening. Not just our church, but the church, Christians, right now. But anyway, so one of the things I want to tell you is the more formal you can make your Holy Listening, like when somebody comes to you and they want to talk and you sit down and you say, I have these rocks and we're going to have craft night, make rocks if anybody wants to come. So you'll come and you'll have your little rocks on your desk or on your dining room table, whatever it is, and you'll say, pick 3 rocks. They pick 3 rocks if you're brave enough to say that, and they will pick the rocks. And then you can say, thank you, put the rocks away. Put your little bag away, bless them, and be done. It does make it intentional, but not forever. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that might help you as you go through. But you will see once you make your rocks where you're going to put them. So you want to come to craft night. It's going to be super fun. All right, so I just want to review. I had another question this week, too, about how do you let go of something somebody tells you? Compassion fatigue is a real thing. So once you decide, I'm going to be a listener for a lot of people, they're going to get the message pretty soon that you actually mean it. And they're going to tell you stuff. And then you have to hold it. And so by the end of today, I hope you'll know what we do with that. Because we cannot be trash cans or spiritual collector bins and hold all the worries of the world. It's too much. It's too heavy. Because guess what? We're already like this full with our own stuff. So we only have capacity for a little bit more. So we'll talk about that. So if you leave today and you don't have that question answered, raise your hand and say you did not answer the question of what do I do with the heaviness that someone shares with me, or the sadness or the sorrow or whatever it is, okay? All right, so I just want to review that when we are doing holy listening, this is not therapy, and it's not armchair therapy. We're not, the people that are like, well, this person, if you're diagnosing people, you're not doing holy listening. So holy listening is just holding sacred space with another person, and it's trusting that in that space, God is present. God is the one who does the work. We are just the bookends for God. Oh, wait. What is this? Oh, hold on. I pushed the wrong button. Hang on. Oh, there we go. So our scriptural basis is where two or more come together. There I am in the midst of them. There I am. So when you are with another person, whether it be on an elevator, in Panera's, at the checkout stand, or with your best friend, if we are truly present, God is with us. And we let God do God's work. We are not God. Here's a definition of holy listening. It is holding sacred space with another person. Being authentically present with another person, listening without the need to judge, fix, help, suggest, or one-up. And we trust that we are holding space where God does the work. Now that's going to help us a lot in letting go. Because this is not ours to hold, this is ours to give to God. So I was talking to a group this week, and you know, I have the soul of a rich person. I do. I love fashion. I love shoes. I will not remember your name, but I will remember your accessory. I kid you not. For like 50 years, I'm into it. I know real gold when I see it. I know a knockoff when I see it. I have the soul of a rich woman. And a lot of times, as I've been teaching this in the last 20 years, people have said to me, you should market this. You should make this secular. You could make a fortune in industry. You could make a fortune in schools. You could make a fortune. And I've gotten this close to making it secular. I even got a book deal once. They were going to give me a $20,000, advance if I would just take God out of this and write it up as secular. And I wanted that. You know how many nice shoes I could buy for $20,000? I could. I'm not kidding. It was really tempting. No, because this is God's work. And I'm not saying that you can't go into your school and make it secular or into your business and make it secular. It's fine with me. But I'm not going to, because I believe in the power of God. And that's what holy listening is. It's believing that we have a God who wants wholeness and healing for everybody. And we simply get to be part of God's work. So, the model. Well, for heaven's sakes. Oh, no. PK? Greg? I think my battery's dead. Hold on. Oh, wait. It turned back on. No, it turned off. Greg, what do I do? Oh, you're going to do it. Thank you. Okay, so this is the model, and I just want to review with you that people want to stay in that upper third. That's where we all want to live. Everything's fine, I'm great. But that does not lead to healing, because you can't go from great to great. You got to go through the you, and it is painful, and it can be dark, and it is transformative. Even if it's something like a theological thing that you're changing your mind on, it's painful to let go of the old and go into the new. So you got to go. We're going to use a spiritual tool like the drawings, the sandboxes, holy listening stones, whatever it is, and we're going to let people go down there and become authentically who they are. Now, today we're going to look at the second half of this. Right after that heart and before that little diamond shape is this thing that happens called shame out. Because we don't live in a society that celebrates tears. And we don't live in a society that says it's okay to be really sad. Everything is get better, get better, get better. If you say to somebody, I'm sad, it makes them very nervous because we look happy. And by the way, everybody's happy. I look at Facebook every night. There is joy in the world, constant joy. Everybody looks good. Everybody's family is healthy. Everybody's healthy. So when you get real, there's this thing that happens called shame out. It happens to all of us. You share your soul with somebody, and then you have a moment where you say, oh my gosh, do I look like an idiot? Do they think I'm crazy? Have I shared too much? What have I done? We all shame out. We all do it. And heaven forbid that in the middle of your tears and authentic self, they look at their watch. Then you go, oh my gosh, not only have I made a fool of myself, I've wasted their time. They didn't even have time to listen to me. Shame out is real, and we all have it. And by the way, we live in a society that wants us to shame out. Because once we decide that my teeth are too yellow, I'm going to go buy the whitener. And as soon as I decide that I'm getting wrinkles and that's not acceptable, I'm going to go get more cream. This is a society that says, oh, don't be authentic. Don't be authentic on the outside, and don't be authentic on the inside. So when we are authentic, we are embarrassed. This is one of the things I love about people who have been through AA or any kind of recovery program, is that in that space, they learn that there's nothing embarrassing about being broken. I love when they go around and say, I'm an alcoholic, unashamedly. But it is rare to have spaces like that. So anyway, that shame out happens, and it happens with children, it happens with youth, it happens with adults. We all shame out. So after you listen to somebody, and they've shared with you whatever it is that they're sharing, you have to let them sit with that a minute. And you have to sit with them in it. Because otherwise, they're going to say, well, she gave me a quick answer, and I should have done that. Now I'm embarrassed that I'm broken. If you say to somebody, are you on an antidepressant? They have just understood that you're not there to hold their pain. Now, you might get to that in some other conversation, but at this moment, you're just going to hold that space. The other thing is that God is present. So we all want to be extra good when God's present. Like, I don't want God to hear all my stuff that I'm not doing well. God gave me this whole world. God gave me everything, and I'm still complaining and whining about this little thing over here. I feel like it's trivial in front of God. So what you want to do is sit with it and say, I've heard you. Thank you. And you don't flinch. And you don't judge. And you don't fix. You don't say anything. You just hold the space for a minute. This is the hardest part of this model. You think it's going to be getting out a bunch of rocks and saying, how do you feel? This is the hardest part, because every part of your being, because you're a loving, caring person, wants to make that person better. And you will make them better by holding sacred space with them. And then you pray. And I want to show you some of the symbolic prayers that I like. So the first one is this little, yeah, Greg, thanks. This is a little, I don't know what it is. It's a little ball. And you breathe in and you breathe out. You breathe in and you breathe out. And it lets somebody just sit with it. So if I had the little thing, it gets little, and then you say, let's just breathe for a minute. That helps you center, it helps them center. You don't need a ball to breathe. You can just breathe. But I like little things that I have like that. The next one is a little sandbox. It's this big. This was a wedding favor. Like, they had M&Ms in them, but I put sand in them. And you have a little toothpick. And you say, you know what? And you have two of them. And you say, I'm going to draw in this and you can draw in this. And let's just sit here for a minute. And just let them sit there in the presence of God. Lightning doesn't strike. God doesn't judge them. Nothing happens. And you center yourself back to remember, this is God's work. I'll just be present with God with this person. The next one is my favorite. It's a little prayer jar my sister made me. And they just write their prayer down, and you say, put it in this jar, and I'll hold it for both of us. Let's just write that down. I love what you're doing here. The next one, candles. Nothing wrong with burning a candle. They're beautiful. I don't think there's a person in the, well, I did meet one person that didn't like candles, and it's because she saw her mother do meth at home. But other than that, I've never met a person who said, I don't like the light of candles. Most people do. So you just light a candle. So what you do is you just sit there. And then the next one, Greg, thank you, are holy listening stones. And you say to them again, choose a stone that would be your prayer. And they say, well, I'm brokenhearted, but what I want is to be whole again. And you hold that stone in their hands and you say, I hear you, thank you. And God hears you. And then you're just silent. You can say a prayer with words if you want, or you can just be there. And what this does, next slide, thank you, Greg, is you've gone all the way down there, and then when they would have shamed out, instead of going there, you just hold the space. And this is where this model is miraculous. Not the model, but the thing that's based on life, death, resurrection. After someone goes into their deepest self, if you can just not say anything, they go back up. Because that's how we're made. We're not made to stay down in the throes of darkness. You go up, that's how God does it. And in that space, they say, wow, I told my truth and I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better. But only if you can hold the sacred space. Because if you can't, then they go right back up there and say, I'm sorry I ever said anything. I have a kid that came to my center, and I said to him, oh my gosh, you did such a good job. You did such a good job today. Thank you for being vulnerable. And he puts his little hands on his hips and he says, oh, wait till next week. You see, that's a kid that wants to come back because he didn't leave feeling bad. He felt feeling strong again. So if we were eggs, you're a little egg over here, but you're fragile. Holy listening allows you to take your shell off and show somebody your yokiest, most authentic self. That's pretty fragile, but you don't leave there. You let them put their little egg on, back on their little shell, and leave feeling whole again. But in that space, in that vulnerability, they've been as honest with God as they can possibly be. That's what prayer is. That's what worship is. That's what happens when we've cried this morning on 10,000 Reasons, which we've heard a million times, but it never gets old. We're all bawling. You see, we're authentic. That's what holy listening is. It's just a moment. But it's amazing what it does for people. We do this, next slide. Oh, thank you. Over and over and over. Tom and I went to an ethics thing this week. We've now learned to be ethical. Don't worry, you're safe with us. We've had a training. We get it every 4 years. So it'll probably get worse, but then we'll get a refresher in 4 years. So we're good. Anyway, we went to this ethics training, and one thing really bothered me. The woman that ran it was lovely. She was a social worker, and she said, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to give you a gift. If somebody comes to you twice for an issue, on the third time, refer them out. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. You don't heal in 2 visits with someone. You don't transform in 2 conversations. It's a relationship. We're in relationship with each other for the long haul, with one another, with your pastors. And I'm thinking to myself, what does she want me to be as a pastor, a referral source? I'm going to hold sacred space for as long as it takes for somebody to get over there. Now, if somebody needs additional help, they need additional help. I'm not anti-therapist. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-anything. But you can do 2 things at once. You can go to therapy and have somebody in your church holding sacred space with you. Because I guarantee you that that therapist rarely will talk to you about God in a positive way. They've seen too much abuse happen in churches. I don't blame them. So if you are a safe church, a safe human being, then you're in it for the long haul. And if you do this, transformation happens. I don't know how. I don't know why. It is the mystery of God. I also don't know how Jesus died on a cross and resurrected in 3 days. But I know that this is our story. Life, death, resurrection. That's what we do in holy listening. We hold space until somebody comes out the other end. And they will. Not because I believe it, not because you believe it, because that's how God made it. Over and over and over. Next slide, please. I want to tell you a story of what happens then once we hold this sacred space, and this is where it gets really magical. Remember Jessica, the little girl that came to me, and she had the earrings and the high heels on, and it was picture day and the red lipstick? I love Jessica. I journeyed with Jessica for a lot of years. And I loved, it was more than 2 visits. I loved her so much. And anyway, one day, she came to my office and she said, you know, so she came regularly and then she wouldn't come and then something would happen. And it was usually around the holidays she would come back. And she said to me, you know, Leanne, I'm doing a lot better, but I guess I'm just the little girl that does well at all times except around holidays. And I said to her, you know what? I get it. I'm kind of that way too. My parents died a long time ago, but around the holidays, I still miss them. I guess I'm a lot like you. I'm like that girl that does well at all times except around the holidays. And at the end, I got ready to bless her, send her on her way. And she took the blessing balm. It was a little bottle of water, and she took it and she said, I'm going to bless you now. And I said, no, Jessica, this is your time. You're not going to bless me. And she says, Leanne, if I'm going to do your job someday, I'm going to need to bless you. I have to practice. And I was like, all right. And she took that little bottle and she said, we have a lot in common. You're like the little girl, even though you're very old. And that was 10 years ago. I don't even want to hear what they would say today. And even though you're very old, you still miss your parents. And she looks at me and she says, that's okay. It's okay. You are a blessing. She made a little cross on my forehead and then both my hands. She blessed me up. She left and she went on her way, and I didn't see her for a long time. The next Christmas, like right before Christmas, maybe like at Thanksgiving, she came and she said, I've made you a Christmas gift. And this was my Christmas gift. It's a scarf, nice and warm. It's this big around, but it's very long. It goes from like the piano to me. It's very, like I could be a mummy. It could be a Halloween thing as well. And so she comes in and she says, I made you a gift. I was thinking about you, and I know the holidays are coming, and I was thinking you are the little girl that misses her parents, even though you are very old, at all times, during the holidays. And she says, so I made this for you, and you know I knitted it on my fingers. You can knit this on your fingers, and I knitted the whole thing for you on my fingers. And I said, well, that's beautiful. And then she said, I'm going to put it on you, and then you're going to wear it all Christmas season, and then you're going to feel better. I said, well, thank you. And then she blessed me, and off she went. About a week later, she came to the center, and she said, I need to know how many kids are coming to our grief event. We had a little Christmassy thing every year. And I said, well, probably 20. Okay. Is there any way there'll be more than 20? No. Why? She says, I'm going to make them something. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking cookies, whatever. Oh, no. She comes to the grief event, and we have it all planned. We've got a tree that is lit, and they're going to put ornaments on it, and they don't know their ornaments light up. It's going to be a magnificent light thing at the end, right? We've got this all worked out, and my friend Jerome, who's as inflexible as a person can be, had helped me. So we get to the end of the thing, and I say, okay, we're going to light the great Christmas tree. We're going to do this thing. Everybody gather around. It's a surprise. And then Aunt Jessica stands up and says, oh, I will be doing the closing today. Jerome says, what? We hung all those lights on that tree, what? And he says, no. And I said, Jerome, and she says, I'll be doing the closing. Could everyone sit down? She's like about 10 years old at this point. Can everyone sit down, please? And she says, you're going to be okay, but the holidays are always going to be hard. And I don't know you, but I love you, and I understand you, and I see you. And I've made each of you a Christmas scarf. That little girl had sat in her house and made 20 Christmas scarves. We only had 19 kids. A woman came in to pick up her child who had recently lost her husband. And Jessica said to her, can I bless you? And that woman fell to her knees, and I'm telling you, it is more holy than an ordination or anything I've ever seen happen. And she wrapped those scarves on every one of those kids. We had teenage boys who accepted pink scarves wrapped on their necks. And we wore them. And I still have that scarf, and I get it out and hang it on my Christmas tree every year. That is not the end of this story. Years later, I had moved to Kentucky. I was home visiting my brother in Colorado, and I get a call from Jessica's aunt. And she says, or an email. She says, I don't know if you're still in town or not, but Jessica's mother has died. She killed herself. This child has lost 2 parents now. And she said, I suppose you couldn't you don't live here anymore, do you? That's what I heard. And I said, I don't live here anymore. She said, is there anybody that's in? I said, the funny thing is I'm in Colorado. I'm at my brother's. I'll meet you at the church in an hour. So I went to the church, and the church let me meet with her, and out comes the aunt with Jessica and her little sister. I didn't remember that she had a little sister, but now her little sister was big, and at first I was confused. I thought the little sister was Jessica, like I had her frozen in time. And so we went in a room, and we sat down, and I said, okay, and I had my holy listening stones because all my friends have a set of these, my brother, the original ones in the original box that we were going to sell, which we never did. Anyway, so I took my brother's holy listening stones, I went to the church, I laid them out, and Jessica said, and I started saying, and she said, Leanne, I got this. You're not going to be here, but I'm here for my little sister. And she laid those rocks out, and her sister picked the rocks, and I watched her be a healer. You know what happens when we start giving permission to people to be authentic? Then they become a master at allowing other people to be authentic. This is how the love of God spreads. We intentionally love one another. And in that process, people transform. So, Greg, next slide, please. This is what this looks like. You do this shape over and over and over. You get so good at it, you don't even realize that someone that you've been listening to has not only healed, but become a master in holy listening. And then what we see is spontaneous sharing. You don't have to say to them, now I'm going to, you need to go help somebody else. You don't have to say that because they're so grateful that they've been heard and listened to that they just spontaneously share. So we see spontaneous sharing. We hear stories of spiritual transformation. And guess what? You are transformed because you have witnessed the power of God over and over and over and over. And you know that God's love changes people, heals people, empowers people, gives people the resiliency that they need. And that's why we do holy listening. I then went into a church. Then I left, I left the church. I was going to go be a therapist because I thought churches were not really doing what God wanted us to do. We were just all about theology. Anyway, I went into this church, and I was going to be a consultant for a while. So I got together 80 congregations, and we studied this model in the church. So instead of just teaching people to be holy listeners one-on-one, we said, does this work in Sunday school classes? Does this work with children in classes? What does this look like in different spaces? And so these 80 congregations, these 80 children's workers really and youth workers went out and they tried this in their local congregations, and we kept verbatims. So I did kind of the equivalent of another doctorate, but I'd already had a doctorate, so I didn't need it. But we did have a grant from the Texas Methodist Foundation, so I had to write like a final, report of what we did, and it turned out to be almost a doctoral dissertation. And what we discovered is that when we started doing this, that this model not only works one-on-one, but it works in groups as well. So you get a group together, and what we do here in this church with our children right now is they go into Sunday school, they make a sacred space, they learn a Bible story, they journal, they reflect on it, and at the end they get a blessing. It works in worship. You come in, and there's like the announcements, and then you have a song, and then you go into the sermon and communion, and then you have a closing hymn, and you come out. And I thought, oh my goodness, life, death, resurrection is baked into everything that we do. The only thing is we don't stop to say how effective is our you, how low are we dipping it. So if we are doing a good job as a church in Sunday school, in youth group, in all the things in worship, then 3 things will happen. People will spontaneously share. You don't have to say to people, could you go out and invite your friends to come to worship? They're going to want to because good stuff's happening, you see? Or they're going to hear your sermon and they're going to be so changed by it that they actually do something different that week instead of just wait for the next Sunday. You see, this becomes a thermometer for us as a church to say what works and what doesn't work. So we no more count by, oh, how many people did we have? Did they seem happy? Did you like it? Were the donuts good? We stop asking those questions. We start saying to ourselves, are people spontaneously sharing what is happening at this church? We have stories of spiritual transformation. And week after week after week, we can't wait to get here because we're going to be transformed here. We feel the energy of God. We have become a place where God's Spirit is so alive that we're ready to just experience it. You would be sad to miss church, you see? So that becomes our thermometer that we can gauge things from, if we choose to do that. All right, there's one more thing, and then we'll take questions because we don't have time today. Thank you, Greg, for doing that. That's the end of the slides. You can relax. At the very end of Holy Listening, so whether it be in Sunday school, youth group, or one-on-one, there is a blessing that we give another human being. You know, in the Bible, often, something dramatic will happen, in the Old Testament mostly, and then God will say, put a rock there. Set up a pillar there. I want you to build a thing. Don't you? Poor Joshua, my heavens. They crossed that river, and then God was like, get 12 huge rocks, drag them into the river, leave them there. I mean, Joshua was probably thinking, what on earth? The reason I think that God had everybody putting up pillars was so that you could remember that something sacred happened there. So whenever you looked over and it can't be a little rock this big, nobody can see that. The grass grows over, it had to be like a big thing. That's why we have spirals on churches. We should remember something sacred's happening in there. That's why they have to stand up. It's not really so everybody can just find us from a skyline, or we can have some bells stored up there or whatever. It's really supposed to be a message of hope. So anyway, you build those big rocks, and then whenever you would see that, you would remember the power of God. So you experienced it. You were there. And then when you get home and you think, did I? Was that God? Or was that just Joshua? Was that God? You look over at that rock and you go, oh yeah. And then we knew it was powerful enough to drag a big rock out and put it there. Well, it's the same with blessings. You bless somebody at the end of it so that they don't get out of there and decide, I made a fool of myself. Or I don't know if that was God, or you just look at them and you say, thank you for allowing me to sit with you while God did God's thing. Thank you. And the blessing becomes that pillar at the end. And I like to do a formal blessing. I like to take my finger and make a little cross on their hand, or on my own heart and then on their heart. Or I like to use the blessing balm with children. I'd like to use it with you all, but you all aren't as receptive, and I like people to like me, and I don't want to feel weird. I really like the thing of blessings. That's why we've started blessing our Sunday school teachers instead of just recognizing them. I love this idea of this is sacred. It's different. And so you bless somebody. And when you bless them, you give the whole thing back to God. And that's how you don't have to carry everything forever with you. So what you do is you go to that person, you say, thank you for sharing this with me. And you bless them. It can be a hug. It can be whatever it is. Squeeze. I like the squunch a lot. With the teenage boys, I kind of like that thing where you go, like that. Like, that thing. I like it, a little noogie. With you all, not so many noogies, but, it's just a thing where you say, I really love that. And like an hour later, you call them or you text them and you say, that was a really special time, thank you. That becomes their rock. The blessing reminds them. And what that does for you and for me is that you don't have to carry it all week. You can give it to God. In my center particularly, oh my gosh, divorcing people are nuts. I can say this as a divorced woman. I mean, you are never uglier in your life than when you are in the middle of a divorce. There's nothing like it. You turn into a person that you cannot stand. And that other person turns into somebody that you cannot stand. You can stand them like in 10 years again, maybe, hopefully, but not right then. It is the ugliest thing. And all divorced people say, I will not put my kids in the middle. And all divorced people are haunted. I'm telling you this, because you have put your kids in the middle at least once. You've done it. All right. That was the hardest thing in my center to deal with. It really was. Because they would say, I'm not going to talk about him or her in front of my kids, but I would get done with the session and I'd walk out in the hall and she'd be on the phone with her mother. Oh my gosh, telling her mother what, and the kid was standing there. And you know they have super ears. They have super ears. They can hear through walls. You think you're being private, they can hear. I'm amazed what my children actually knew that I never told them. They're kind of sleuths. They're kind of, they got their own thing. Anyway, sometimes I would be like, oh, I just want to keep this kid with me till this divorce gets over and mom returns to her healthy self. They always return. But there's a moment. It was so hard sometimes to give them back. Or one time I had this one mom and she drank a lot. And she was great at getting sober. But when it would be time to go back to court, when she would get her kids back, like the night before, she would do something like get drunk and crazy text the lawyer or something and not get shared custody of her kids back. She was just self-sabotaging. And there was points where I was like, oh, I just want this kid to come live with me. I don't want to give them back because I could do this better in my own mind. Now, my own children would tell you, oh, no, Mom, you couldn't. But I thought I could. And it was just so painful, And so when I blessed them, I blessed the whole situation and I gave it to God, who goes with them. Jessica was right. She said, you won't be here, Leanne. I'm going to need this. I'm going to be with my sister. I'm going to have to do this long term. But she's also right about God. We're not going to be there to wholly listen all the time. But God is. So what I do in that blessing is I say, you are a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And then I take a moment right after that, and I say to God, thank you for taking this, for holding it so lovingly. And I just imagine God taking that whole situation and putting it in God's huge heart, which is so much bigger than I can ever even imagine. So you bless them, you send them on their way. And you say, I bet I said the wrong thing. I didn't do the right thing. I should have listened better. I think I was judging. I might have one up, da-da-da. And guess what? God does God's thing every time. Because the story is life, death, resurrection. This model takes a lot of courage. Because you have to believe in God. And you have to go in some dark places that you probably don't want to go. It's not for everybody. Some people will say, I will just bake cookies while the rest of you do holy listening. That's fine. But at some point or another, you will be sitting across the table from somebody who's going to need some holy listening. And you're ready. What do? You hold sacred space for the God who does all the work. It's not hard. Sacred space. And then, after they share with you, you enter a time of silence. You don't faint. You don't pass out. You don't get alarmed. You just sit there. God's doing it all. Then you bless them. You go. And then someday they'll come back to you and say, remember when we had that coffee? That changed my life. You didn't know how lonely I was, but you listened. Over and over and over. Do you know that 73% of our youth, 73% of our youth report that they are going to their AI companion before they go to us? It doesn't have a soul. We do. May we be people who are brave enough, human to human, to be vulnerable and to receive someone else's vulnerability. That is life-changing. And to me, that's what the church is. I no longer believe that the church is a place where we come to accumulate theological knowledge. It is a place where we are inspired to be the loving heart of God. And if we could do that here, I'm telling you, the world is hungry to be heard and to be healed and to find resiliency. It's powerful. All right, that's my thing for today. Next week, we're going to dream. We're going to say, what am I going to do with this? What do you want to do with it? And you can say, you know what, we're going to bless you to go out and talk to other churches. We're not interested. That's fine, whatever. But I think something will come out of it. So between this week and next week, what I invite you to do is just spend some time praying and thinking, what would this look like? What would this look like in my own life? What could this look like for our church? What could this look like in my business? What could this look like in my school? What does this look like? And then maybe we'll dream together. And maybe we'll figure out how we can live into this space of holding sacred space for a world that needs us. Holding sacred space for each other. If you are a person who doesn't need somebody to listen to you, would you raise your hand? And we're the church. We're the nicest people on earth. Imagine what our community would say. It's powerful, right? All right. What questions or comments do you have today? Thank you. Here, use the microphone.
It's been a long time since I've had the Stevens ministry training, but this should certainly be a part of it.
Yeah, she's talking about the correlation between Stephen ministry and this. Yeah, I mean, this is King Solomon at his best. There's nothing new under the sun. Jesus was listening a long time before we are. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just thought that was very down to earth. Very natural, very real. I was very impressed.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Anybody else? Question, comment? Yes, ma'am.
How do you let it be known that you are willing to listen, that you want to be someone that listens?
So did you hear that? How do you let somebody know that you're a person that listens? Well, I think the first thing is you're a non-anxious presence and you make time in your life to listen. But I don't think it takes much for somebody to be heard. I think a sincere, how are you, with the space to actually listen goes a long way. I think many of you are natural listeners, and once you become aware of it, you'll just be more intentionally that way. But we could also, next week we're going to dream. You know, I had a spirituality center where people made appointments to come and be listened to, and they came in droves. Maybe we do something that formal, or maybe in a group that you're in, you say, let's try these rocks, let's just see what happens and see if we can go deep, see what happens. And once you start doing it, rather than explaining it to death, people are pretty receptive to it. Steph and I went to King Center. I've been trying to build a relationship with King Center. It's tough, though, because they're unorganized in a way. No offense if you're on their board, but it's kind of hard to get Miss Deneen to, schedule it, So we were like, you should come to the church. We have air conditioning. We had all this stuff. They came this summer. Oh, by the way, Junior, we went to the King Center, and they said those hot dogs that you cooked were 800% good. 800%. That was a lot. Anyway, we've been there 2 weeks, and we do holy listening. So this was the first week that we took holy listening stones, and we got groups of 6 at a time. So we've been going there because we're tired of waiting for them to come here. So we went there, and we laid out the stones. And all we did was say, this is going to help us put your feelings into words. And I forgot how easy it is. It was like melting butter. They all shared. And then when we left, they were hugging us and saying, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back? Are you going to come back? And then it was so cute when we left because we heard them saying, hey, the church is coming back. We could hear it all the way down the street. The church is coming back, Miss Deneen. The church is coming back next week. I love that. that they don't come to the church. They know the church is coming to them. It's beautiful. Yeah, did that help? You just kind of, I have to say, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're a really good listener. You kind of are this. So it's not like you have to learn a whole new skill set. You just kind of embrace who you are. You probably wouldn't be here if you weren't some kind of listener. Anybody else got a question or comment? Yes, ma'am. Oh, by the way, is today your birthday, Elizabeth? Happy birthday. We have a birthday. And I brought her a pawpaw. I didn't know it was her birthday. It wasn't her birthday gift, but she was happy.
I just wonder if unpacking that, you made that comment, being an unanxious presence, and unpacking that might be a real benefit. And also, I'm going to put my 2 cents in. If you want to invite somebody to listen, shut up.
Easy. Yeah. People want to share. They really do. And the thing is, if you're going to enter this, the thing is we all need it too, right? So the most arrogant thing in the world is the person that listens. They always listen, but you realize, wow, they've been listening to me for 100 years, but I don't know them from the man in the moon. Right? It needs to kind of be, you got to be willing to be vulnerable. It's rude to be like, I want you to be vulnerable. I'm not going to be vulnerable in any way, but you should be. Trust me. That's still a hierarchy. This looks like this. And the non-anxious presence, yeah, it's just time, space, and being there. The most amazing thing to me, though, is that God can work even when we're anxious. It's kind of amazing how God is. So it kind of goes back to Tom's sermon this morning. You don't have to do it well all the time. People appreciate your willingness to sit with them and to listen. And sometimes you say to somebody, I'd like to listen to you. Do you need to share? And they will say to you, no. And the kindest thing you can do is to say, okay, well, if you ever need me, I'm here. Because this is hard work for somebody. Not everybody can go into those vulnerable places, especially when we're not ready for it. But there'll be a day where they are. So you just listen. You're just there. You find out the most amazing things about people. And you learn that vulnerability is a gift. If we don't start being vulnerable with one another, we're going to kill each other spiritually. Anybody else? All right, next week, come back, please, and be ready to dream a little bit. You will not be recruited. So don't skip thinking, oh, she's going to start a thing. We're going to have I'm not recruiting you. I have no recruitment tool that I don't even know what we're going to do. I have no idea. We might just end next week and be like, well, we don't know what we're going to do. Oh. Yes, sir. I don't know yet. The Christian Ed team is meeting sometime this week, and when I don't know what group to give stuff to, I just give it to them, so they're going to set a date, and then we'll let you know. So by next Sunday, I will tell you when the craft night is, and we'll make rocks. All right? Abby, start counting rocks. All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. I love that you're still here after 3 weeks. This morning I thought, I hope they come back. Yay. Get our car seat, get our seat.